Welcome back to Math 104. Recall the following example from earlier in the course. We looked at the 1,000 students taking a certain Rutgers course as the sample space for an experiment. The experiment is to select a student at random and ask, do you or don't you live on campus? Are you or are you not a junior? Are you or are you not a history major? We take this information as given, which we should really think of as the result of having done a survey. This kind of a survey that asks questions about these three categories is different from the kinds of surveys that we've been talking about more recently, where we just asked a yes or no question. Do you support the proposed law or are you opposed to it? This is a somewhat more sophisticated survey. This is a survey that collects enough information that we can try to find out something about the relationships among these different events. As we analyze the survey data more closely, suppose that we turn our attention to those survey participants who are juniors, so we'll focus just on the J circle. So these are the participants in the event J. We ask, do they, as a group, live on campus less than, more than, or at the same rate as the survey population at large? Another way of saying it is, if we randomly select from among the juniors, and ask what is the probability that a randomly selected junior lives on campus, how does that compare to the probability that a randomly selected anybody lives on campus? Here's another formulation. Of those participants who are juniors, what fraction also live on campus? An important way of thinking about this is that we're going to zoom in on the J circle and treat it as if it were now the sample space for a new experiment. There is such a thing as talking about a randomly selected junior, as opposed to a randomly selected survey participant. So let's compute this. Of those who are juniors, those are shaded in orange here, what fraction also live on campus? Out of the 200 juniors, there are 90 who live on campus, and therefore this probability equals 0.45, or this fraction is 90 over 200, which is 0.45. The answer to this question, of those participants who are juniors, what fraction also live on campus, can be thought of as the probability that a randomly selected participant is in the set C, given the information that this participant is already known to be in the set J. There is special notation for the answer to this question. We write it like so. Probability of C given J, or the probability that C occurs given that J occurs. Given that we're talking about a junior, what's the probability that they live on campus? So we have found that the probability of C given J in this particular problem equals 0.45. We go on to ask, how does this probability that a randomly selected junior lives on campus, which is 0.45, compare to the fraction of survey participants overall who live on campus, which is the same as the probability that a randomly selected survey participant lives on campus? So this second probability, or this second fraction of survey participants we're asking about, the meaning of this word overall here is that we are drawing from the entire survey population and not zooming in just on the J circle. So if we're drawing from the entire survey population and we're asking what's the probability that somebody lives on campus, that's just P of C, the probability of the event C, which is 600 out of 1,000. There are 600 people in the C circle overall, out of 1,000 survey participants overall, and that is 0.6. If we're looking just at juniors, there's a 45% chance that a randomly selected junior lives on campus. But if we're looking at anybody and don't know anything about their class year, there's a 60% chance that they live on campus. Or in terms of fractions, 45% of the juniors live on campus, but 60% of everybody lives on campus. Notice how C is the regular kind of event that we've always been talking about all along through the course. Whereas this new thing, C given J, is a strange new kind of event. The ordinary kind of event has a probability that is out of 1,000 because that probability is in relation to the entire sample space. Whereas this new kind of probability is only out of 200 because there were 200 people in the J circle. So it's only out of 200 because it is not in relation to the entire sample space. That's going to be a recurring theme for the next little while. And so now we can draw our conclusion. Based on this survey, are juniors more likely or less likely than the general survey population to live on campus? They are less likely. This is the comparison. This 0.45 tells us about the juniors, and this 0.60 tells us about the general survey population. Before going on to the next video, answer the following questions. How does probability of H given J, which we can think of as the fraction of juniors who are also majoring in history, think where that lives in the Venn diagram, how does that fraction of juniors who are also history majors compare to the fraction of survey participants overall who are history majors? And then, after answering that question, based on this survey, are juniors more likely or less likely than the general survey population to be history majors?